Hello and welcome or welcome back. My name is Justina and in today's video I'm going to present the forecast for December 2021 for each zodiac sign. I use Western astrology tropical zodiac and these predictions are most accurate for the rising sign. However, you can also watch this for your sun sign or for your moon sign. Now, if you want to skip to your sign, make sure to check the comment section or the description box down below. Before I get to the forecast for each zodiac sign, I first want to briefly discuss what's happening in December because it's a very busy and exciting month. Right, so first of all, Neptune will turn direct in Pisces on the 1st of December. So here, with this mystical planet turning direct after so many months, around 5 months since the end of June. So here, collectively, we will be stimulated by this energy to become more tolerant towards each other, more compassionate and more understanding. So here we start the month with this mystical and loving energy. Now on the 4th, there's a solar eclipse, a south node solar eclipse in Sagittarius, so the last eclipse on the Sagittarius and Gemini axis for a while. However, this is a south node solar eclipse, so it's slightly different to the north node one. And the reason for that is because with the south node solar eclipse, which happens when the south node is the node that is closest to both the sun and the moon. The south node solar eclipse is about moving away from some old behavioral patterns, life structures, relationships, in order to make space for something new to begin, because solar eclipses are about new beginnings, a fresh start. It's a very powerful new moon, 6 times stronger than a regular new moon, and you might not experience anything new or sudden on the day of the eclipse, but you are likely to experience something in the weeks perhaps before this eclipse or a few weeks after. Now, if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius, then you will be especially influenced. So you are likely to experience events around this eclipse, especially if you have any planets or angles at the degree of this eclipse. Right, so then we've got Venus in Capricorn. Venus will be in Capricorn this month, and this is a really tricky transit. So I think Venus is one of the most challenging alignments or transits events of December 2021, and the reason for that is because it will turn retrograde on the 19th until January 28th and 29th, and while it stays here in Capricorn in December, it will conjunct Pluto twice, the first time on December 11th and the second time on December 25th. So here, this can bring out some really intense emotions concerning the area of life activated by this conjunction, but also anything connected to love, relationships, because Venus is the natural significator of love, romance, creativity, finances. Now, Mars will move into Sagittarius on December 13th until January 24th. So here the planet of action, motivation, drive, moving into this optimistic sign. This can really open our horizons, our wisdom, make us more open-minded, more intellectual as well. Now, we've got a full moon in Gemini on December 18th. And this one is also really interesting because it's happening at 27 degrees of Gemini, and the sun will be at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, the sun opposing Gemini. And the Galactic Centre is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So here the sun will align at the same degree as the Galactic Centre. And whenever the Galactic Centre is triggered, this is a time when collectively the spiritual awakening process is stimulated. So it's a really interesting full moon. And on the 19th, Chiron will station direct in Aries. So here with Chiron, this is about healing. So while Chiron stayed in the retrograde motion for the last few months, You may have experienced some healing of some sort. You may have healed some old traumas, old wounds, some relationship issues, financial issues, or whatever it is. Now with Chiron turning direct, you might move, or we might move collectively with more confidence, especially if you manage to heal some difficulties over the last few months. And on the 23rd, we've got the Saturn and Uranus square. So this square has already occurred on February 17th and June 14th. We had 3 this year. Well, this is the 3rd one, the final for this year. We have one more in autumn of 2022. So if you look back in time and see what happened in your life, what area of life was triggered on the 17th, 14th, it's like a clash of energies between the old Saturn and the new Uranus, the past and the future, especially with what's going on in the world. We're kind of moving away of a lot of things that perhaps we got used to before, and moving into the future, into more futuristic approach to living, if this is the way we can say it. But here, this square, we are moving away from the familiar, from the old, from the past, and we are moving into the unknown. So there's a clash of energies here between the old and the new, between the past and the future, between the old, the tradition, and the modern. And the final event of the month is Jupiter moving into Pisces on December the 28th until May the 10th, at which point Jupiter will move into Aries. So once Jupiter moves into Pisces, it will move at a very fast pace. And this is a beautiful transit. We have already experienced it this year between May and July, and it gave us a sense of hope, a sense of connection collectively, and a sense of freedom for many people in a way. I know that some countries went into lockdown at this time as well, but overall there was quite a lot of positivity in the air and optimism. Right, so on this note, let's move into the predictions for each rising sign. Thank you very much. Hello Aries, and welcome to your horoscope for December 2021. So here we start the month with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius, the South Solar Eclipse at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius, then pay attention to what area of life they rule, because this is also the area of life that could be triggered at this time. Now, so new moon solar eclipse in the 9th house, so you might be moving away from some old beliefs or old life philosophies or some old friendships, traditions in your life, and you might be moving into a slightly different new direction. This is about your life direction. So you might be asking yourself questions whether you are heading in the right direction in your life, whether something needs to change. You might come up with some really interesting ideas at this time as well. You might have an opportunity for traveling. You might be dealing with legal matters as well, getting some legal documents sorted. Or alternatively, this could be about higher education as well. You might be starting a degree, or you might be changing a degree at this time, dealing with assignments. If you are a writer, it's a good time for publishing as well, getting your creative project into the outer world. This is a time to get yourself out there, to show your work into the wider audience. This is also the house that rules astrology, so you might be studying astrology at this time. Generally, you might experience a strong need for adventure, spontaneity, for expanding your wisdom, expanding your intellect. You're more interested in the wider topics rather than the mundane subjects, responsibilities, and so on. This area is again stimulated on December 13th, at which point Mars will move here. So Mars, the planet of will, action, motivation. So you'll have even more motivation to deal with your life direction, to perhaps travel. But here Mars will conjunct with the South Node on the 15th. So the beginning of its transit in Sagittarius, Mars here will align with the South Node, because the South Node is moving backwards into Scorpio. So here with the South Node, this is about clearing away, moving away from some old structures, habits, routines. So it's a great time for decluttering, clearing away from whatever that you don't need. You might be dealing with something from the past as well, perhaps some old documents, paperwork, someone from the past, like a friendship with someone from a foreign land, culture, country to yours. This person might get back in touch with you as well around this time. So generally you might be dealing with things from the past around this time, but also this is a great time for moving away from anything that outlived its purpose in your life. On the 18th, we've got a full moon in Gemini, and this is happening in your 3rd house of communication. So a full moon is a time of either a highlight of something that you've been working on in the past, or alternatively, you might be finishing something, and also it's a time of kind of clearing away as well. So it's a great time for dealing with paperwork, with tests, assignments, just get them out of the way. But also this is a time when your relationship with your siblings, people from your community, your neighbors, this is the area of life that is highlighted at this time. So there could be more activity going on in your community, some changes in your community. You might be more involved in things that's kind of going on in your surroundings. You might be stimulated to go away, take a short trip. There could be also some events that happen in your siblings' life or next of kin. Also an important document might arrive. You might be dealing with some important documents, emails or calls. Now, Venus will turn retrograde on December 19th. Venus is in Capricorn here this month in your area of career and professional life. So before Venus turns retrograde, it will conjunct Pluto in Capricorn in your 10th house, once on the 11th and then again on the 25th. So with these conjunctions, you might become obsessed with an idea concerning your career, your professional life, your public life. So it's not really a great time for making any drastic changes here with the retrogrades, conjunctions with intense Pluto, because while you might be really obsessed about someone concerning your career life, once Venus moves away from Pluto, you might see whatever you were obsessed with from a very different perspective. So be mindful of any compulsive behavioral patterns, or perhaps you might attract people who are also of an obsessive nature into your life, or there could be also some power struggles with authority figure, with bosses, managers. So here's something to pay attention to is perhaps the communication or how you relate to another, because this could be a lesson, one of the lessons, especially this is connected to your public life. And with the retrograde until the 29th, so Venus will turn retrograde at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and the retrograde will end at 11 degrees of Capricorn. The pre-shadow period started on November 17th. Right, so with the retrograde, you will be re-evaluating your career path, your career options. You might actually realize that whatever you're doing, it's not what you want to be doing, that you're not really fully connected, emotionally connected to your profession. Perhaps something needs to change, or perhaps you want to change your job. So anything connected to this area of your life, you will be reviewing that. You will be reviewing, reassessing your career path, your life direction, and perhaps your relationship with your superiors as well could come into focus. And finally, on the 28th, we've got Jupiter moving into Pisces into your 12th house. So this is a really nice and positive energy, because Jupiter feels really good in the 12th house. It's like a guardian angel. So you will be kind of protected while Jupiter stays here in the 12th house in the first 4.5 months of 2022. This is about you becoming more in touch with your inner self. Your dreams might be more vivid than usual. You might feel like you volunteering. You might feel like doing some charity work, being of service to others, generally without expecting much in return. So I'll discuss this transit more in depth in the 2022 horoscopes, in the yearly horoscopes. This is just a little overview. And on this note, I would like to wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Taurus, and welcome to your horoscope for December 2021. We start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th, activating your 8th house of transformation. So here with this solar eclipse, it's a South Node solar eclipse happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius or Gemini, then you will be especially impacted by this solar eclipse. And also pay attention to the planet triggered by this eclipse if you have any, and the area of your birth chart that is ruled by this planet, because that area will also be triggered at this time. Right, so with the South Node solar eclipse, we are also not only starting something new, but also moving away from old life structures, relationships, and this is happening in your 8th house. So this is a really great time for moving away from any outlived or disturbing behavioral patterns, habits, routines, relationships, whatever isn't working or outlived its purpose. Now would be a really great time to move away from that and start something new, make space for something new to begin. Because if we are stuck in a situation or relationships or whatever it is that isn't working, but we are not changing it, then it's difficult to attract these new energies and move forward. So here with the house of transformation, the 8th house, it's a great time for transforming the area of life that lost its spark. Take charge of your life. This is a great time for taking the charge of your life, basically, to feel more self-empowered. Now, here your intimate life comes into focus as well. So you might be either connecting with your partner on a deeper level, or you might be resolving some issues as well, moving away from some old patterns or habits that negatively impact your relationship, your personal relationship, your intimate relationship, to be more specific. This is also the house of gains and losses. So you might inherit money, you might gain money through any investments, for instance. But if you're planning on investing your money, just be mindful, because this is also the house of losses. So just make sure that you read everything carefully and you are sure about anything that you are investing, especially check your ruler of the 8th house. If it's afflicted, then it wouldn't be a good time for investing your money around this eclipse. Right, so now on the 13th, we've got Mars moving here as well. Mars will bring more passion into your intimate life. But something to pay attention to here between the 13th and the 24th, when Mars remains in Sagittarius, is, well, Mars can bring some conflicting or challenging situations in terms of how you share your joint finances or resources with your partner. So especially if things haven't been really properly discussed, organized, or shared, then now Mars could really trigger some emotions, some impulsive emotions. So it's something to kind of pay attention to. And generally with Mars here, on the 15th, Mars will align with the South Node. So during this day, you might be dealing with some issues from the past. So it's a great time for either paying off your loans, paying off your debts, or even doing some financial planning in order to kind of move away from any disturbing financial difficulties and moving forward. But also this could be a time when you might be dealing with some issues from the past concerning your intimate life. So it's not a great day for starting anything new here, the South Node. It's a day to either deal with the past and resolve it in order to kind of, to feel more self-empowered, so to speak, or alternatively, something from the past might come back into the surface and you might have to deal with it around this 15th of December. Now on the 18th, we've got a full moon in Gemini, and this is activating your 2nd house of finances, resources, possessions, And with this full moon, you might have a desire to be more financially independent if this is something that you've been working towards. But also the issue of your finances, self-worth, self-esteem comes into focus. You might be able to finally buy something that you've been saving for. So this could be a purchase that comes, an important purchase with this full moon. And generally it's a great time for doing budgeting, reassessing your income situation, your assets, your possessions as well. So generally this is about also movable possessions. So you might be buying a car at this time, or you might be buying something for your house, for yourself. Now on the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in Capricorn in your 9th house. So here Venus will turn retrograde at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and it will station direct on January 29th at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So with the retrograde in your 9th house, you will be re-evaluating your life direction, your life philosophy, your life principles, your intellect as well. But generally with this retrograde also, something from the past might come back into the surface, perhaps an ex-relationship. You might be also making some important life decisions regarding your life mission, foreign journey, marriage. Venus will conjunct with Pluto on the 11th and on the 25th of the month. This could either bring some power struggles or some jealous behavior. You might attract people into your life who are of an obsessive nature. You might also meet someone from a different background to yours and form a very strong and intense relationship. Or you might become obsessed with an idea to travel somewhere far away or start a university degree. So whatever is the scenario with the Venus and Pluto conjunction, it's important to perhaps be mindful about your indecisions. If you're going to make some important decisions, even though with the retrograde, it's not a great time for doing that because your thinking might not be clear. Now, once Venus moves away from Pluto, you might see things from a very different perspective. So just keep this in mind in terms of making any important life decisions, life moves. And the final event of this month that I wanted to discuss is Jupiter moving into Pisces, into your 11th house. So Jupiter will stay in Pisces until May the 10th, at which point it will move into Aries, and then it will return back into Pisces in September 2022. Jupiter in Pisces feels fantastic. Here you might have an opportunity to expand your social circle, so you get connections with people from different backgrounds, countries to yours. Jupiter rules the 9th house in traditional astrology. And generally there will be opportunities for networking, for joining new groups, to meet like-minded people, for traveling. And generally your outlook on life in terms of anything to do with long-term plans, long-term goals will be more optimistic and more open-minded. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello dear Geminis, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. And here we start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. And this is happening in your 7th house of love, marriage, relationships. This is the final eclipse that will happen in the sign of Sagittarius for a while. So this is a south node solar eclipse, so you are moving away, or it's a fantastic time to move away from any negative behavioral patterns, routines, habits that affect your relationships. This is about one-to-one relationships. This is about how you relate to another in personal relationships, how you communicate as well. So lots of things to kind of consider around this eclipse. Now, eclipses are about new beginnings. If you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius, make sure that you check the house that is ruled by this planet, because that area of life will also be triggered at this time. So here with an eclipse in the 7th house, this is about, here I mentioned communication because Mercury will be closely aligned with this eclipse. So you might be dealing with some agreements, some paperwork, some contracts as well at this time. But otherwise, this could be a beginning of a new friendship, of a new relationship, business partnership. You might be going on a therapy as well at this time. Generally, this is about finding more balance and harmony in your relationships, personal relationships, business partnerships, marriage, or any type of love relationships. Now on the 13th, Mars will move here as well. So this area of life will be really stimulated in the first couple of weeks of the month, with Mars moving into Sagittarius, into your 7th house on December 13th until January 24th. So your energies will be centered around your personal relationships. So here the lesson with Mars in the 7th house is to learn to compromise and find common ground, because some issues that concerning any disagreements or conflicts, something that you don't agree on perhaps, might be triggered now with this transit. Obviously with Mars here, there is passion, there is love, sexual energy, but also there could be some conflict. Now on the 15th, Mars will conjunct with the South Node. So during this day, you might be dealing with some issues from the past concerning your personal relationships, business partnerships, agreements, contracts. Someone from the past might also come back into your life at this time. And this would be a great time for resolving any issues, dilemmas, or if you have any issues with contracts or any agreements, this also would be a great time for just getting on with them and moving them off the way. Right, so we've got a full moon in Gemini on December 18th at 27 degrees of Gemini, and this is happening in your sign. So with a full moon in your sign, there's a full illumination on you, on your persona, on your identity. So you might want to pamper yourself, you might want to change something in your appearance, you might become more popular as well, because the moon is fully illuminated around this full moon. So full illumination on you. And it's a great time for dealing with your own desires, goals, because this full moon only happens every so often here in your 1st house, in your sign. So it's a great time for dealing with your plans, goals, something that you've been working on for a while might also come into fruition. And you might be dealing with your career direction, with your life direction, with some important relationships as well, since the Sun is in the final degrees of Sagittarius at this time as well. Now on the 19th, Venus will retrograde in Capricorn in your 8th house of intimate matters transformation. So here with Venus retrograde until January 28, 29. So the retrograde will start at 26 degrees of Capricorn and it will end at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So here with this retrograde, you will be reviewing, re-evaluating your intimate life, how you connect with others on a deeper level. You will be reassessing your any investments or mortgages you may have. Generally, your financial situation comes into focus, how you share your joint resources, your joint finances. Venus will conjunct with Pluto twice in December on the 11th and the 25th. So during this time, you might experience some really intense feelings. So with the 8th house involved, this could be some really passionate, intense and powerful feelings, emotions concerning your intimate relationship. Just pay attention with power struggles or some obsessive behavioral patterns. You might also attract an obsessive or someone who's obsessive into your life. Now, this is not a great time for making any major life changes or perhaps investing your money in something huge, because you might be obsessed with an idea at this time, but it doesn't mean that it's the right option for you, for your life. Because once Venus moves away from Pluto, then you might actually realize that that wasn't a good idea. So just keep this in mind, especially when dealing with any major life decisions. And the final event of the month that I wanted to discuss in this video is Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th into your 10th house. So Jupiter will stay here until May the 10th, and at that point it will move into Aries, and then it will return back into Pisces in the September 2022. So with Jupiter in Pisces in the 10th house, this could be a time of some really great opportunities, because you see in 2021 Jupiter was stuck with Saturn. So it was like Saturn and Jupiter traveling together for a while. But here Jupiter is on its own in Pisces in 2022, away from Saturn. And it will align with Neptune as well in April. So here with new opportunities for expanding your career options. So this is the year, or the first 4.5 months of the year are fantastic for dealing with your career, your public life, public image, your professional life here, because it only happens every 12 years. And if you happen to have Jupiter in Pisces here in the 10th house, then you will go through your Jupiter return. So this is actually a fantastic time when good things happen. It's a good karma comes to you. So this is a very, very good time for really moving forward with your career. But I'll discuss this further in more depth in the yearly horoscopes. This is just a little overview. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Cancers, and welcome to your horoscope for December 2021. We start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th. And this is happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius or Gemini, then make sure to check also the area of life that the planet triggered by this eclipse rules. And this way you will find out more information on how this eclipse could impact you on a more personal level. So here this eclipse is happening in your 6th house. Health, work, daily life is highlighted at this time. Now, since this is a South Node solar eclipse, you're moving away from some old dietary habits, old behavioral patterns that negatively impact your health, well-being, and general daily life. So with a solar eclipse, this is a solar eclipse is 6 times stronger than a regular new moon. So it's a very powerful time of new beginnings. And here we're kind of clearing away from some old habits, routines, in order to make some more space for something greater to emerge. So at this time you might be dealing with your personal health, your employment. So you might be changing your diet. So dietary changes. You might introduce a new health regime, exercise regime as well, or you might transform your daily life, make it more organized, make it better structured. You might be working from home or returning back into the office. You might be changing your job. You might gain more authority at your existing work. You might have an opportunity for more outings with your co-workers as well. You might be getting a new pet. And generally here with this eclipse in the 6th house, you want to make your you want to be more productive, more effective, but without exhausting your energies. On the 13th, Mars will move into Sagittarius, into this area of your life, until January 24th, 25th. So here with the Mars in this area of your life, so Mars rules your 10th house of career, and here with the ruler of the 10th in the 6th. This can make you really tired. So you might be actually working quite a lot while Mars stays here in the 6th house. So it's really important that you use your energies wisely and find time for peace and quiet as well, because this could be a pretty stimulating. Mars in the 6th house enjoys being here. It's a good placement, but since Mars rules your 10th house, you might be really multitasking, or you might be doing too much more than you can without really realizing it at first. And then you might become really drained and lack energy to do more. So it's kind of really important to kind of make sure that you're conscious of how much you can do without overextending yourself. With Mars here, the daily life becomes really active, very busy. And it's a great time for working out, for physical exercise as well, for building some muscles, and generally you might be involved in some independent project as well with Mars here, or you might be leading a project. Now Mars will align with the South Node on the 15th, so you might be dealing with some issues from the past, with some paperwork, projects, co-workers, whatever it is things from the past might come back into the surface. So this will be a really good time for resolving, for dealing with them, moving them out of the way. On the 18th, there's a full moon in Gemini in your 12th house. A full moon in the 12th house might make you want to retreat temporarily, deal with your private life, private matters. You might become more mysterious, secretive, or you might just desire more privacy. So you might be also more tired than usual here, and with Mars in the 6th house, really find time for relaxation or enjoy nature, take a walk, because you might really need it around this full moon. This is a time to kind of reconnect with your inner self, with the 12th house full moon, and you might enjoy doing things that are connected to spirituality, meditation, yoga, or spiritual retreat, or just watching things that kind of lift you up or increase your vibrations. Right. So your dreams might be also more vivid than usual. On the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in Capricorn, and Venus will turn retrograde here in your 7th house of love, marriage, relationships. So Venus will turn retrograde at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and it will end its retrograde on the 29th of January 2022 at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So while Venus stays retrograde here in your 7th house, you will be reviewing, reassessing how you relate to others, especially when it comes to one-to-one relationships, communication as well, how you communicate with others. You might seek more harmony, more balance in your relationships, especially the close relationships here I'm thinking about. You might be dealing with some agreements. So if you're going to sign anything important at this time concerning agreements, contracts, make sure you read everything carefully, because you might have to redo it, because that's what retrogrades are about. Retrogrades are not about starting anything new. It's about either dealing with things from the past, or about reviewing, reassessing existing situation. Someone from the past might also come back into your life, an ex-lover, an ex-husband, ex-best friend. Now, Venus will conjunct with Pluto on the 11th and the 25th. So this could bring out some really intense feelings, power struggles, jealousy, and compulsive behavior. So keep this in mind. It's not a good time for making any drastic changes in your personal relationships or love, because you might not actually, you might not realize how deep, intense your emotions might be, and you might not make the best decisions at this time, because once Venus moves away from Pluto, you might see things from a very different perspective. And the final event I wanted to discuss here is Jupiter moving into Pisces, into your 9th house. And this is a fantastic transit, because Jupiter is the ruler of the 9th house. So Jupiter feels great here. Jupiter in the 9th house will stimulate you to expand your knowledge, horizons, wisdom. You might have an opportunity for traveling. You might be working abroad, or dealing with people from different cultures, countries to yours. You might become more positive about your life, about where is it that you're heading. Your life perspective is likely to be more open-minded and more positive, optimistic. I'll discuss this further in the 2022 horoscope. Now, this is just a little overview. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Leos, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. We start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th. And this is happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So here, if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius or Gemini, then make sure that you check what area of life is ruled by the planet triggered by this eclipse, because this will give you some more information of what you might expect on a personal level when it comes to this eclipse. Now, this is a South Node solar eclipse, so in a way you're moving away from some disturbing or things that basically are no longer working in your life, that outlived their purpose. So perhaps the way your parenting style might change at this time. You might find new ways to connect with your children, but also this is about your romantic sphere of life. And this could bring a new romantic relationship into your life, or you might connect with your existing partner on a slightly different level, maybe more deeper level. Now, you might also desire more fun, more joy, more entertainment, and you might want to reconnect with your inner child. So there is this really strong need for expressing yourself creatively. You might be bursting with creativity. So it's a good time for releasing the excess of energy on doing something artistic. This could be also related to your children. So some new beginnings in your child's life. Perhaps your child might be getting married or having a child. And generally this is a really interesting and positive eclipse in the 5th house of joy, fun, positivity. So it's a really joyful eclipse to have at the end of the year. And we've got Mars moving here as well on the 13th until January 24th, 25th. So here Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation, moving here. You will have even a stronger desire for self-expression, for being creative, artistic, but you might struggle with self-discipline here. Now, something to pay attention to is the 15th, when Mars will align with the South Node. During this time, you might deal with the things from the past. Some issues from the past might come back to the surface. Some people, perhaps an ex-romantic relationship, or someone generally from the past, perhaps someone you worked with. You might also be dealing with some old paperwork, old creative projects, or something to do with your children might also be triggered. This will be a really good time for resolving any of these dilemmas, issues there might be, and just move them away, take them out of your way, moving forward. Now on the 18th, there is a full moon in Gemini in your 11th house of friendships, group activities, long-term plans and goals. So there's a full illumination on this area of your life. You might be more popular in your social circle. There could be more opportunities for networking, for socializing, for expanding your connections with others. You might also find out some important news from a friend, or some secrets could be exposed, and you might see someone from a very different light. So you might change your opinion about someone close to your heart, or maybe a close friend, as a result of some circumstances that are triggered around this full moon. Now, this is also a good time for dealing with any goals, any wishes, any hopes for yourself. So maybe some of your goals might come into fruition with this full moon. And on the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in Capricorn in your 6th house until January 28th, 29th. The retrograde will start at 26 degrees of Capricorn and it will end at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So with Venus retrograde in your 6th house, you will be reviewing, reassessing your daily life, daily routine, maybe finding new ways to enjoy your lifestyle, to enjoy your daily life. You will be also reviewing your employment, your work, and you might decide you want to change your job. You might decide you want to change your role, your position, or generally you might be rearranging your office space, or perhaps there could be something triggered with your coworkers. You might change your diet. You might also change your exercise regime or introduce a new exercise regime during this retrograde. Now, Venus will also conjunct with Pluto on the 11th and the 25th. So here this could bring out some really intense behavioral patterns, some jealousy or power struggles, perhaps at your work with someone that you work. So whatever the scenario, it's not a good time for making any big changes here. Because once Venus moves away from Pluto, you might see things from a very different perspective. And the intensity will kind of calm down. So I think it's something to keep in mind these days, 11th to 25th as well. And just stay away from any kind of intense and disturbing situations if possible. Because you might also attract intense experiences at your work or with your co-workers. And the final event of this month I want to discuss is Jupiter moving into Pisces on the 28th of December into your 8th house. So with Jupiter moving here, you might until May the 10th, and then in May Jupiter will move into Aries, and then it will return back into Pisces in September 2022. So while in the first 4.5 months of 2022, Jupiter will be here in your 8th house, so you might have opportunity to invest your money. You might take a mortgage to buy a property or a piece of land, whatever it is you might be investing. You might gain financially as well through any investments that you may have, or you might receive an inheritance. You might also gain financially through your partner. Now with Jupiter in the 8th house, it's also a good time for investigating, getting to the root of any important issues, any important problems. You might also form or establish a new relationship with another person, a deep bond, a blend of energies, so to speak. So I'll discuss this transit further in the yearly horoscope for 2022. This is just a general little overview. And on this note, I would like to wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Virgos, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. We start with the South Solar Eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th, and this is happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of either Sagittarius or Gemini, then make sure that you check what area of life is ruled by this planet, because that area of life will also be stimulated at the time of this eclipse. So you can find out more information on how this eclipse will impact you on a more personal level. Now, the solar eclipse is activating your 4th house of domestic life. And with this in mind, since this is a South Node solar eclipse, you're kind of moving away from some old patterns, old structures, life structures that don't positively contribute into your life, or perhaps habits, routines connected to your home and family that doesn't work anymore, that outlived their purpose. So it's a great time for kind of doing a clear out, so to speak, and make space for something new to begin. And with this solar eclipse, it's a time of new beginnings concerning your domestic life. So you seek more emotional safety and security in your life. You want to connect with your home base on a deeper level. You might also prefer to deal with the private sphere of your life rather than get yourself out there here around this solar eclipse, since there is an influence on the 4th house, which is the most private sphere in the chart, in our lives, our home. You might be selling the house, you might be moving to a different house, you might be refurnishing, changing, renovating, or you might be buying a house or a piece of land. So whatever it is, the changes will be concerning your home sphere, your domestic life. And you might be also receiving visitors, relatives visiting you from abroad, or you might go and visit your family members, and someone might be moving in or moving out. Generally, this is about your home base, making it more safe, more secure, more steady, building a solid home foundation. Now, Mars will also move here on December 13th until January 24th, 25th. So with Mars here, you will be doing lots of work around your house. Your energies will be invested in your home sphere. You might be, again, renovating, decluttering, painting, gardening, doing things connected to your home. Something to pay attention to is Mars will conjunct with the South Node on the 15th of the month. And you might be dealing with things from the past around this time. You might be reviewing some life events or some relationship with your family members. Some issues might also come back that you might have to resolve, and it's a good time for resolving and dealing with them, because this way you can kind of move them off the way. And it's a really good time for decluttering as well, getting rid of whatever you don't need in your house. Now, on the 18th, there is a full moon in Gemini in your 10th house of career and professional life. So there's a full illumination on your public life. So after a couple of weeks at the beginning of the month, when you may have felt more introverted, or you may have dealt with the home and family matters, and you still will be until Mars stays here, but this full moon may also make you more popular in your outer life, especially in your career. You might receive public recognition, you might receive a promotion, and generally there is a full illumination on your career sphere. So it's a good time for dealing with anything connected with your life direction, with your life path, life mission. And you might be also reviewing, reassessing where is it that you're heading with your career. Does something need to change? Do you need to get additional qualification or skills, or improve your existing skills in order to progress? Generally, this is about what you should be doing with your life, and whether you are satisfied with the current situation. Now, on the 19th, Venus will retrograde in Capricorn in your 5th house of creativity, fun and children. And Venus will stay retrograde until January 29th. The retrograde will start at 26 degrees of Capricorn and it will end at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So you will be reviewing your romantic relationships, your relationship with your children, your parenting style might also transform, change. And generally this is about you reconnecting with your inner child. You finding the inner courage, the inner confidence to express yourself creatively. So you might be dealing with some creative projects. You might be reviewing your business if you have a business. It's not a great time for starting anything new or big or making major life decisions, because you might not be thinking clearly with the retrograde. It's a good time for kind of dealing with the past, things from the past, or with the current situation, or with continuing with things that you started before the retrograde. Venus will conjunct with Pluto on the 11th and the 25th of the month. And this could be a time when some really intense feelings emerge. Now, you might become obsessed with an idea, with a thought. Whatever it is, it's a really good time for kind of releasing the excess of energy on doing something creative, rather than making some drastic life decisions. Because once Venus moves away from Pluto in February, because it will still conjunct Pluto in January, you might still see things from a very different perspective after the retrograde period and after these conjunctions with Pluto. So just keep this in mind, especially if you're going to have to make any important decisions in your life. Now, you might also attract someone into your romantic sphere of life. So this could be a beginning of a new romantic relationship, and you might be really obsessed with each other. Something to pay attention to here as well is power struggles or jealousy, manipulative behavior. And the month ends with Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th, and Jupiter will stay here until May the 10th, at which point it will move into Aries, and then it will return back into Pisces in September 2022. So Jupiter in Pisces feels great. This could be a time when you might start a new relationship, even with someone from foreign country or culture to yours. Jupiter rules the 9th house. And this energy really gives you a more optimistic outlook on your personal relationships, love, marriage. So you might be getting married, engaged, start a new relationship, expand your connections with some friends. So you might take your relationship into a deeper level and form a more personal one-to-one relationship. So generally with Jupiter here, you are really curious, interested in one-to-one relationships, and you want to expand your connections. But also you might have an opportunity to travel, or you might be dealing with some legal matters as well concerning any business partnerships, relationships, marriage. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello dear Libras, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. We start with the South Solar Eclipse in Sagittarius happening on December the 4th at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of either Sagittarius or Gemini, then make sure that you also check the house ruled by this planet in order to gain more understanding or information about how this eclipse will impact you on a more personal level. So here with a South Node eclipse, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is about moving away from old, outlived life structures, routines, whatever is not working in your life. You might be moving away from some old communication styles that you used in the past. Maybe you want to become a more mature communicator. You might be moving away from some routines, or perhaps from some old skills. You might improve your existing skills. You might also improve your relationship with your next of kin or with your siblings. And generally you might be more involved with your life in your community, with your neighbors, with people from your surroundings. So here with this solar eclipse, you are making space for something new to begin. A solar eclipse is 6 times stronger than a regular new moon. It's a very powerful time, a time of new beginnings, of new opportunities. And this is the last eclipse on Sagittarius and Gemini axis. We're moving into Scorpio and Taurus energy, slightly different energies here, fixed energies, and these are movable, mutable signs. So more flexible, more adaptable, rather than fixed energy, which is more stubborn, resistant to change. So you might be flexible and adaptable with whatever that comes into your life here. Communication is really highlighted because Mercury will be closely aligned with this solar eclipse. So you might be dealing with some paperwork, you might be dealing with some test assignments, you might receive some important news as well, something that you've been waiting for a long time. This could be also related to some changes or new beginnings concerning your siblings, or you might want to plan a short trip. So travel is also highlighted here. And generally this is about you communicating, you connecting with others, you expanding your social network with people from your community. Now, Mars will also move into this area of your life. So the first couple of weeks will be centered around communication, social networking, your community, your life within your community. With Mars in the third house, you will really connect, or yes, connect with your opinions, with your thoughts. And if someone disagrees with them, you might take it quite personally. So just keep this in mind when getting into some hot debates. But with Mars in the third house, if you're going to be traveling, also pay attention to your speed, because you might be driving faster than you realize here with Mars. You might be rushing with this Martian energy. Mars will conjunct with the South Node on the 15th, so you might be dealing with issues from the past, paperwork, emails, and someone from the past might come back as well into your life. So this will be a really great time for maybe even getting rid of some old documents, old paperwork, and resolving any dilemmas, any issues, anything that perhaps stands out at this time, in order to kind of get it out of your way, especially since this is the end of the year. We're moving into the new year, so you want fresh energy. You want to make space for something new and greater to begin in your life in the coming year. Now with Mars, so we've got Mars here on the 18th. We've got a full moon in Gemini in the 9th house, and this is at 27 degrees of Gemini. So with this full moon, there's a full illumination on your sphere of foreign matters, foreign cultures, languages, higher education. You might become more spontaneous. You might seek more adventure. You might seek more intellectual conversations with others. Your life philosophy, your life principles come into focus. You might want to redefine them. You might also ask yourself questions regarding your life direction, whether you are heading in the right direction or whether something needs to change. So full illumination here on this area of your life. You might be dealing with legal matters, some important documents, applying for some for visa or anything connected to legal matters in general. Now, this full moon might also stimulate you to find new ways to help you to reach your goals, your desires, your ambitions. Now, on the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in Capricorn until January 29th. So here Venus will turn in retrograde in Capricorn at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and it will station direct at 11 degrees of Capricorn. The pre-shadow period started on November 17th. So Venus retrograde in the 4th house will really prompt you to reevaluate your home situation, your home base. You might ask yourself whether you are satisfied with your living conditions, or is there something needs to change? Do you feel comfortable in your home? Do you feel safe, secure, emotionally connected to your home base? Or whether you need to change something, make some adjustments. Your relationship with your family members will also come into focus. You might be reassessing, reviewing your family relationships at this time. You might be contemplating buying a house or moving, but this is not a good time for making any huge life changes, because once Venus stations direct, you might see things from a very different perspective, and you might get obsessed with an idea while Venus stays in Capricorn, because Venus will conjunct Pluto twice in December. So you might be obsessed with an idea to move somewhere, to sell, to buy, to redecorate, but in a big way. So perhaps be conscious, be mindful of any changes, major changes that you might want to make, because once Venus turns direct and moves away from Pluto, these obsessive thoughts might be seen in a very different light. This could also bring some power struggles with a family member. So just something to keep in mind as well when interacting with others, when communicating with others, especially around the 11th and the 25th of the month. Now, the month ends with Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th until May the 10th. So Jupiter was in Pisces back in May, June, July. So we experienced a little bit of this beautiful energy, optimistic, more loving, more compassionate and empathetic. This could expand your opportunities for work, employment. You might expand your connections with your coworkers as well. You might have a greater desire to exercise, to change your routine, daily habits. You might travel for work. You might cooperate with people from different cultures or countries to yours. Now with Jupiter, something to pay attention to is your dietary habits, because you might be drawn to more saucy, more fatty foods with Jupiter here. So it's easier to gain weight when Jupiter transits the 6th house as well as the 1st and the 2nd house, because these are houses connected to our diet, what we put in our mouth, our health, vitality. I'll discuss this transit further in the yearly horoscope. This is just a little overview. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Scorpios, and welcome to your horoscope for December 2021. We start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. And this is happening on December the 4th in your 2nd house of finances, income, resources, possessions. So this is a South Node solar eclipse. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of Sagittarius or Gemini, then make sure you check also the house ruled by this planet, because this way you can gain a better understanding how this eclipse will impact you on a more personal level, what events it could trigger or bring into your life. This is connected to your finances, to your wealth, to your self-worth. So here, it's a great time for moving away from any negative habits, money spending habits, and establish a better relationship with your finances, so to speak. So it's a great time for moving away from any routines, habits, or behavior patterns that negatively contribute to your self-worth, self-esteem, to how you manage your finances, to how you accumulate your wealth, and make space for something new and greater to begin or emerge. Now, this could be a time of some really interesting new beginnings. So you might start a new project that will help you to improve your financial situation. So generally with this eclipse, it's a really good time for starting something new that could help you to expand your income capabilities. You might also have opportunities from your existing work to earn more money. So generally this is about your finances, your financial situation, budgeting, financial planning, development of material values. So your personal values are here highlighted as well. You might be redefining them, changing them, and dealing with them at this time. Now Mars will also move here on the 13th until January 24th, 25th. Mars in Sagittarius feels great, and it makes us more optimistic in general, expands our wisdom, connections, and knowledge. With Mars in the 2nd house, you will have a really strong drive to make money, to improve your financial situation. There is also kind of sometimes an aggressive way or aggressive behavior patterns, because you are really stimulated to improve your finances, to accumulate more wealth, more money. Now, something to pay attention to with Mars here is not to overspend, because you might be really stimulated and spend money on things that are of not high value. So impulse purchases, what I'm thinking about. Venus will conjunct with the South Node on the 15th. This will be a great time for dealing with some old matters, or you might actually have to deal with some old matters concerning your finances, self-worth, your skills and talents. Someone from the past might come back into your life, or you might find yourself in circumstances that highlight or trigger some emotions, some disturbing emotions from the past concerning your finances, wealth, money making projects, or money spending habits. So generally it's a good time for resolving any dilemmas, issues from the past. This is about the South Node, it's about the past, and it's a good time for moving away. So generally with this eclipse and this conjunction with the South Node, it's a really fantastic time of the year to kind of really move away and close some chapters in your life concerning the negative ways of money spending habits, or things that like affect your self-worth. On the 18th, there is a full moon in Gemini in your 8th house, so the house of transformation, death and rebirth, intimate life. There is a full illumination on this area of your life, 27 degrees of Gemini. So this is a time when you might want to reconnect with your partner on a deeper level. You want to blend your energies with another. You seek deep connections, deep conversations. It's a great time for researching, for investigating, getting to the root of any problem. You might transform something, move away from disturbing habits, eating habits, or some emotions. And generally it's a time for kind of dealing with some deep things deep aspects of life, but at the same time transform the area of life that you are least satisfied with. You might decide you want to invest your money as well at this time. You might gain financially through your partner or through investments. Just bear in mind when it comes to investments, this is a time when Venus is already in a pre-shadow period about to turn retrograde. So not the best time for kind of making any drastic decisions. Now Venus will turn retrograde on the 19th until January 28th, 29th at 26 degrees of Capricorn until January 29th around this date. It will station direct at 11 degrees of Capricorn. The pre-shadow period started on the 17th of November. Right, so Venus retrograde in the 3rd house. This is about reviewing your relationship with people from your immediate surroundings, siblings as well, next of kin. So here you are generally reassessing your lifestyle in your community, your commitment to your community, to your life within your community. And you might be also reviewing anything to do with paperwork, anything to do with your skills, with your talents. You might be dealing with some paperwork from the past, some projects. If you're going to sign any documents, make sure you read everything carefully, because with the retrogrades, it's not a good time for starting anything new, especially the ones that concern Mercury and Venus. It's a good time for continuing things or returning to things that were put on hold in the past. So maybe some projects. You might be writing, you might be singing. You might have opportunity for getting back in touch with some friends you haven't seen for a while, some people from your immediate surroundings. Now, something that I wanted to mention is that Venus will conjunct Pluto on the 11th and the 25th. This could bring out some really intense energies, and this is connected to communications happening in the sphere of communication. So when it comes to communication here with Venus and Pluto, you might be dealing with some really intense and deep matters, especially with this full moon in Gemini and Venus and Pluto both in your sphere of communication. Something to pay attention to, because you might attract people who are of a compulsive or obsessive nature into your life. So something to pay attention to is power struggles or jealousy behavioral patterns. Now with Venus and Pluto, you might also attract a new love relationship into your life at this time. However, it's not a good time for making any major life changes here with this retrograde and Pluto and Venus conjunction, because once Venus moves away from Pluto and turns stations direct, you might see things from a very different perspective. Now with Venus and Pluto conjunction, this is also a great time for writing, for dealing with written projects, because you might be really deep and really inspired at this time. Very imaginative, very creative here, but on a very deep level. Now, the final event that I wanted to discuss is Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th until May the 10th of 2022. So at that point, Jupiter will move into Aries until September 2022, at which point it will move back into Pisces. So with Jupiter in the 5th house. So the 5th house is the house of fun, joy, children, creativity. So here, the need for expressing yourself creatively will be really stimulated and increased. This is a time for you to connect or reconnect with your inner child. Find a way to express yourself creatively. Find the inner courage, the inner confidence. It's a really, really fantastic time for being creative during this transit. Self-expression. Now you might also set up a new business. You might start a new hobby. So new interests, new hobbies, new business here. There could be more opportunities for you to just enjoy life. And you might attract a new romantic relationship into your life. Or perhaps you might find more romance in your existing relationship. The relationship with your children is also highlighted at this time, and it's likely to be really pleasant. Especially since Neptune is here as well, mystical Neptune, and Jupiter and Neptune will align together in April. Right, so I'll discuss this further in a yearly horoscope. This is just a little overview. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello dear Sagittarians, and welcome to your horoscope for December 2021. Now we start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So If you have any planets at around 12 degrees of either Sagittarius or Gemini, make sure you also check the house ruled by this planet in order to gain a better understanding about the influence of this eclipse for you on a more personal level. Now, a solar eclipse in your sign, so a very special one, the final one on this, well, on the Gemini and Sagittarius axis for a while, because we're moving into Scorpio and Taurus. Right, so it's a very special one because it's happening in your sign. So here there's a full illumination, the moon and the sun in your sign, in your first house, away from the 12th house. So this is a time for you to get yourself out there. You might be starting some really interesting projects, a new phase, a new chapter in your life as we approach a new year. Now, this is a South Node solar eclipse, so this is a good time for moving away from some old habits, old routines, or whatever it is that is no longer working in your life, a clear out. It's a really great time for doing a clear out, especially since it's December, end of the year. So you might have this really strong energy to get ready for the new year. A new year always opens up new opportunities. Now you will be dealing with your own goals, life direction, life mission. It's all about you, the sun and the moon in your sign. So the focus of this eclipse is on personal development, on finding inner courage, the inner confidence, for expressing yourself with more confidence. This is about your identity, your persona, about your strengths and your weaknesses. So you might be starting some new goals, new personal projects, setting up some new goals for yourself. A really interesting eclipse here. Now, Mars will move into your sign as well on December 13th until January 24th. Mars in Sagittarius opens up lots of opportunities. So here, with Mars moving away from your 12th house, you will regain your energies. You will regain your strength and willpower and motivation. And with the solar eclipse in your sign, you will really have this energy and courage and drive to deal with your long-term plans, long-term goals. So Mars in your sign increases your vitality, increases your motivation to move forward with your life. So you don't want to hide away anymore. You want to get yourself out there and really take charge of your life. Now, Mars will conjunct with the South Node on the 15th of the month. So you might be dealing with something from the past. Some issues from the past might come back into the surface, or you generally might be drawn for resolving some past issues, past dilemmas. Someone from the past might also contact you, get back in touch. Generally, this is a good time for kind of clearing away or dealing with the situation that emerges, if any, because it doesn't have to impact everyone, and move it out of your way in order to kind of start the new year with more confidence, with more optimism. Right, so on the 18th, we've got a full moon in Gemini in your 7th house. So as you can see, the 1st and the 7th house axes are really activated this month. It's all about you, your personal goals, ambitions, your career, but also your personal relationships come into focus. So you might have to balance these energies and find time for your personal relationships while dealing with your personal goals here at the time of this full moon. And the full moon in the 7th house brings full illumination on your personal relationships, marriage, business partnerships. You might be signing something, some agreements, some documents, contracts. You might find out some secrets, things that you perhaps you were not aware of before about your partner or best friends. And it's a really good time for kind of dealing with any issues concerning your marriage, business partnerships, because you are fully aware of what's going on with this moon being fully illuminated here. If you're going to sign something important around the time of this full moon, make sure you check it really carefully, because the day after, Venus will turn retrograde, and Venus will be already in a pre-shadow period since November the 17th. So on the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in Capricorn at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and it will turn stationary on January 29th at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So with this retrograde, this is not a good time for starting anything new. Same as with Mercury retrograde. It's a good time for continuing with things that happened before, Venus went retrograde, or for returning to things from the past that you left behind or put on hold for some reason. So this is connected to your personal wealth, to your finances, to your income, to your self-worth, self-esteem, your skills and talent. Now, so you will be reviewing, reassessing your financial situation. You might be doing financial planning, financial budgeting, returning to some old projects from the past concerning your finances, your income, your revenue, and so on. This is also a good time for improving your existing skills. That could potentially help you to improve your financial situation. So perhaps if you have your own business, you might be improving your existing marketing skills or your research skills in order to gain more sales or gain more profit from your business. So this is just a little kind of example. Now, Venus will conjunct with Pluto on the 11th and the 25th. This could really bring out some very intense emotions, and you might become obsessed with something, some object of beauty, something really expensive, because this is the second house of resources, possessions as well. So there could be this really strong desire to buy something that you might not even kind of be able to afford, but there will be this really compulsive and obsessive thought, idea, or desire. So with this in mind, it's really important to kind of control the emotions with this conjunction, especially any urges, financial or money spending urges, because Venus on its own in the second house will really stimulate you to buy things, objects of beauty, of art, creativity. And with Pluto involved, the planet that can bring some really obsessive, compulsive ideas, thoughts, behavior. So it's something to really pay attention to. It's not a good time for making any drastic changes throughout these days, the 11th and the 25th, because once Venus moves away from Pluto, you might see things from a very different perspective. The month ends with Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th in your 4th house. So this is a really lovely transit. So you might be able to improve your home life, expand even. So you might move to a larger property. You might add a new room to your existing property. You might have a baby and this would expand your family, or maybe someone might move into your house, perhaps your in-laws or your parents. This is the house, the planet of expansion. So it could literally either expand your home space, or it could increase the number of people living in your house. But you might also travel abroad to visit family members during this time. You might relocate to a different country, even temporarily. Or perhaps your child might move abroad due to a course of study, for instance. So here, this is a time of some improvements to your home, to your relationship with your family members. So this is until May the 10th, at which point Jupiter will move into Aries until September 2022, and then it will move back into Pisces for a while. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month. I'll discuss this transit further, more in depth in the yearly horoscope. This is just a little overview. And on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Capricorns, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. We start with the South Solar Eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th. And this is happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius in your 12th house. So a new moon solar eclipse is 12 times stronger than a regular new moon. It's a very powerful time. And with a South Node, you're moving away from some old structures, outlived behavioral patterns that no longer serve any purpose, in order for something greater to begin or emerge. So here with this solar eclipse, if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of either Sagittarius or Gemini, make sure you also check the area of life that is ruled by this planet in your birth chart, in order to gain a better understanding of how this eclipse will impact you on a more personal level. Now, a solar eclipse in the 12th house, this is about you working from behind the scene or something. You might be dealing with some private matters, things that perhaps others don't know about you. It's a great time for moving away from some disturbing situations, issues, resolving them. Now, this is a time when you might start a new business. It's generally not a time when you might receive so much recognition or the recognition that you desire. It's more about giving your energy away into a cause, into a project, into perhaps you might be involved in some volunteering or charity work. Generally, this is also about compassion, empathy, being of service to others without expecting too much in return. You might also want to reconnect with your inner self. You might want to become more spiritual, meditate. You might want to do some yoga or go on a spiritual retreat. Now, Mars will move here on the 13th. And with Mars here, your energy until January 24th, your energy is moving forward, might be slightly lower. And you might need more sleep, more rest. You might want to spend more time in nature, which will be very beneficial for you. Mars is the planet of action, motivation, courage, drive. And when placed in the 12th house, the energies are kind of hidden away. They slow down. So it might be more difficult to kind of act or start something or generally deal with challenging issues here during this transit. But you might be also finishing some chapters, some episodes in your life. But where I'm getting to the conjunction with the South Node on the 15th. So Mars will conjunct the South Node on the 15th. And this will be a time when things from the past might come back into the surface during this day. You might be dealing with some old issues, old dilemmas, old memories as well. So here again, it's a good time for kind of resolving these issues, accepting them, embracing, so that when Mars moves into your first house, you will regain the inner confidence, the inner strength. It's also about self-empowerment here, ultimately. And on the 18th of the month, we've got a full moon in Gemini, activating your 6th house of work, health, employment. So here during this full moon, there's a full illumination on your well-being, on your health, on your vitality. So you might be reassessing your dietary habits here with this full moon. You might be reviewing, reevaluating your daily routine, daily habits. You might introduce a new exercise regime as well. But your work life is also highlighted here, your employment, your co-workers. So you might find out some important news about your work. You might get a new job if you applied for a job before. You might have an interview as well. This full moon also illuminates anything connected to your work, vitality, co-workers that you were unaware of before. There's a full illumination on this sphere of your life here. Now, on the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in your first house, in your sign. So this is until January 29th. And this retrograde will start at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and it will end at 11 degrees of Capricorn. The pre-shadow period started on November 17th. So you will be reviewing, reassessing your life goals, your career, anything connected to your identity, anything that doesn't or perhaps that negatively impacts your self-esteem, self-worth, self-empowerment, self-confidence. So this is a great time for kind of reevaluating anything connected to your own persona, your strengths, your weaknesses, so that after this retrograde is finished, you can move forward with more confidence, with more optimism as well, with a more optimistic outlook on your life. Now, this retrograde might also bring an ex-relationship into your life. So you might be dealing with issues from the past. Venus will conjunct Pluto on the 11th and the 25th of December. Here, this could bring out some really impulsive and intense feelings, emotions. So you might be obsessed with an idea concerning any long-term plans, long-term goals. You might be more obsessed about your appearance. You might want to change something. You might want to transform the way you present yourself, the way you dress yourself. So this is not really a great time for making any drastic changes, even though they might happen out of your control. But generally, be mindful with any changes that you make around this time, because Venus conjunct Pluto plus retrograde later. Once Venus stations direct and moves away from Pluto, you might see things from a very different perspective, and you might actually realize that perhaps some of the decisions that you made during retrograde weren't right. So being really conscious of your decisions or any changes that you make is really essential at this time. And the month ends with Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th. And this is into your third house. So with Jupiter moving into your third house, you might have a greater need for writing, especially if you are a creative person. So you might set up a blog, you might be writing a book, an ebook, document. So there is a lot of writing involved with Jupiter in the third house. Communication as well. You might expand your connections with your neighbors, with your people from your surroundings as well. There's a really strong focus on your community, on your neighbors, on your siblings, on short trips as well. So you might be traveling more, taking more short trips rather than traveling around the world. Or if you travel somewhere far away, you will still want to kind of visit the local areas quite a bit, to kind of visit the local villages or towns. So short trips are really influenced by this transit, but also writing and connections, social networking. I'll discuss this transit further in the yearly horoscope, but here Jupiter will stay until May the 10th. And then again, it will return from Aries in September 2022. So you might also expand your skills, your writing skills, your communicating skills. Right, and on this note, I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Aquarians, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. We start with the new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th, and this is happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of either Sagittarius or Gemini, then make sure you also check the house ruled by this planet, because this way you will gain a better understanding of what you could possibly expect around this solar eclipse. This is a south node solar eclipse, so you are moving away from something old, something that you might be even familiar with, but something that doesn't or no longer aligns with your life mission, life purpose, long-term plans, long-term goals. So this is connected to your friendships, to your networking skills, to your long-term plans and long-term goals, as I've just mentioned. So you might be redefining your goals, redefining your desires and goals for the future with this eclipse. So making some new goals, some new plans, setting yourself some new objectives. This could be a beginning of a new friendship as well, because friendships are really highlighted at this time. With this solar eclipse, you seek open-minded conversations, intellectually stimulated conversations as well. Now Mars will move here on the 13th until January 24th. Mars will move into Sagittarius, so here you will become even more open-minded, even more intellectually stimulated when talking with others, when you're communicating with others. With Mars here, there will be opportunities for networking, for socializing, for working in groups, or perhaps you might be involved in some group activities in general, in teamwork. So this is all highlighted during this transit. Now, you might also be a leader as well, because Mars, with Martian energy here, this is a really good transit for leading a project, for becoming a leader of a group. Mars will conjunct with the South Node on the 15th. So here you might be dealing with some issues from the past. This could be connected to your friends or your long-term plans, goals. So if this is connected to someone from your social circle, which could be the case, this would be a good time for resolving any dilemmas, issues you may have. Things that perhaps were never discussed before. Now would be a good time for resolving them. Alternatively, someone from the past could get back in touch with you as well around this time. So generally, this is a good time for kind of clearing away, moving away from any disturbing and negative energies with this conjunction with the South Node. On the 18th, there is a full moon in Gemini in your 5th house. So we're moving away from the energies of socializing and interacting with others, networking, and we're focusing on self-expression here with this full moon. You might have a greater desire for expressing yourself creatively. So creativity and imagination is emphasized here with this full moon. There's also a greater desire for entertainment, for fun, for joy. Your relationship with your children is also important here during this full moon. You might find out some really important information about your children, about their romantic partner in your life This full moon might also bring more romance into your existing relationship, or you might go on a date. You might feel more romantic than usual as well with this full moon. Alternatively, you might reap some really interesting rewards from your hard work efforts concerning any business, any hobby and creative project. So here we are moving into Venus retrograde on the 19th of the month. It will start at 26 degrees of Capricorn and it will end on January 29th at 11 degrees of Capricorn. Venus retrograde until the end of January from the 19th of December. This is about your private life, the spiritual side of your life as well. So you might be dealing with some private matters, things that perhaps others are not aware of. You might return to some old projects from the past or things that were put on hold. So generally you might be working from behind the scene. And it's a good time for working from behind the scene, but not for starting something new. It's better to either continue with things from the past, things that were put on hold before and you were unable to finish, or things that you started before this retrograde. You might also transform unhealthy habits, unhealthy behavioral patterns, routines with this retrograde, Venus retrograde in the 12th house. Now, with Venus retrograde here, someone from the past might come back into your life, perhaps an ex-romantic partner. But even if this happens, this will be done from behind the scene in secrecy. So you might not want to tell others about this. This is the hidden area of your life. Now, Venus retrograde here is also a good time for reconnecting with your inner self, learning more about spirituality, reconnecting with nature. Now, Venus will conjunct with Pluto on the 11th and the 25th. So this could really bring out some intense, compulsive behaviors. It might also attract someone obsessive into your life, or it could bring out some jealous behaviors. It's something to really pay attention to around this retrograde. And if this is the case, perhaps this will prompt you to make some really important decisions, since Venus will also turn retrograde around the 19th. However, when making these important life-changing decisions, be really mindful, because once Venus turns stationary and moves away from Pluto, you might see things from a very different perspective. So, the final event of the month that I wanted to discuss is Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th until May the 10th. And this is into your second house. Now, Jupiter in the second house can really bring some interesting opportunities for you to improve your financial situation, to expand your finances, to expand your resources, possessions, self-worth, and self-esteem. So this is a really good time if you want to start a new business with this transit until May the 10th. If you want to start some new projects connected to your income finances, now would be a good time with this transit, because Jupiter will help you to expand your resources, your finances, especially since Jupiter will be here on its own without Saturn, like this year it was traveling with Saturn in Aquarius. So now this will be especially a good time for kind of dealing with your finances, because with Neptune on its own here in Pisces, things could have been slightly, you may have felt confused or uncertain about your financial situation. So with Jupiter here, this is like an opportunity for you to regain your power, to accumulate more wealth and expand your income capabilities. And on this note, I would like to thank you very much. I wish you a pleasant month, and let's move to the next sign. Hello Pisces, and welcome to your December 2021 horoscope. We start with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 4th at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have any planets at around 12 degrees of either Sagittarius or Gemini, make sure you also check the house ruled by this planet in order to gain a better understanding of how this eclipse could impact you on a more personal level. This is a South Node solar eclipse, and it's happening in your sphere of career, public life. So this is a time to get yourself out there. Mars will move here later on December 13th. This is not a time to hide away, because there might be some really interesting opportunities coming your way here. So with a South Node solar eclipse, this is a time to move away from anything that is no longer working in your life concerning your public life, public image, career. South Node, you might be familiar with some routines, habits, but they might not necessarily positively contribute into your career progress. So it's a great time for moving away from some behavioral patterns, routines, habits, whatever it is that no longer aligns with your life mission, life purpose concerning your career progression. Now, a solar eclipse is it's 6 times stronger than a regular new moon, a very powerful time. So during this eclipse, you might move forward with your career. So you might gain a promotion at your career. You might gain more authority. You might change your career. You might start a new career. So generally new beginnings, new opportunities, new possibilities for you. You might also change your status, which would mean that you will get engaged or married, for instance. So it's a really interesting and powerful solar eclipse that won't happen for a while. So take advantage of any opportunities that come your way with this eclipse, because this is a time when you might experience more growth in your career, as well as more development concerning your public status. Now, on the 13th, Mars will come here as well. Mars will move into Sagittarius until January 24th. So you'll put your energies here, your willpower, into your career sphere, and you will have a greater desire for recognition for your achievements. This would be also a great time for becoming self-employed, becoming your own leader, or you might become a leader of a project. You might here again gain more authority at your work. Just pay attention to any impulsive behavior patterns here with Mars, or acting before thinking. On the 15th, Mars will conjunct with the South Node here in this area of your life. You might be dealing with things from the past, with some paperwork, projects, perhaps someone connected to your career might get back in touch with you. It's a good time for resolving any old issues, any old dilemmas, especially since this is the end of the year, and make space for something greater to begin and emerge while you move away from these old habits, old structures, anything disturbing, negative, that doesn't align with your career life, doesn't align with your public reputation and public image. On December 18th, we've got a full moon in Gemini in your 4th house. So the first couple of weeks are really centered around your public life, public image. And this will continue because Mars will stay here until January 24th. So you will have the drive to move forward with your career. You will be competitive. However, once the full moon occurs on December 18th, you might want to kind of also dedicate more energies towards your home life. So perhaps if you invest too much energies into your career, this full moon will prompt you to find a healthy balance between the time that you dedicate towards your career and development, professional life development, and the time that you dedicate towards your family and towards building of a solid home foundation. So this comes into focus, home foundation, emotional safety and security comes into focus. Now there's a full illumination on the 4th house at this time, so you might find out some important news concerning a family member, but also you might see things from a slightly different perspective at this time, because things are much clearer. You're fully aware of what's going on the home sphere with this full moon. You might also decide you want to refurbish, redecorate, or maybe buy something new for your home to make it more cozy and more comfortable. Now on the 19th, Venus will turn retrograde in Capricorn in your 11th house. Venus will turn retrograde at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and it will end station direct on January 29th at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So during this retrograde, you might be reviewing your friendships and how you relate to others, your stand within your social circle. You might let go of some unhealthy friendships, and someone from the past might also come back into the surface, perhaps an ex friend or someone with whom you had a romantic relationship with a friend of yours. So this would be also a great time for kind of dealing with any situations that emerge concerning any friendships or your social networking skills and abilities. You might be also dealing with your long-term plans, long-term goals. You might be redefining them. You might become more realistic, or you might try to find ways that will help you to reach your goals, reach your desires. Venus will conjunct Pluto on the 11th and the 25th of December here in this house, in the 11th house. This can bring out some really intense compulsive behaviors. This can also bring some intense experiences into your life. So 11th and the 25th. So it's important to kind of, if you feel overwhelmed with these energies, release them on doing something creative. Self-expression through creativity is always beneficial. Spending time in nature as well, if you're overwhelmed with the intensity of these energies, because Pisces is an emotional sign, water sign. So with the Plutonic intense energy, you might feel like you want to withdraw as a result of the intensity that comes with this conjunction. If you want to make any really huge changes concerning either your long-term plans, long-term goals, or any friendships, just be mindful, because your judgment might not be 100% clear. So you might see things very differently once Venus stations direct and moves away from Pluto. So just kind of be mindful. If you're going to sign any agreements or join any groups, be mindful of that. And the month ends with Jupiter moving into Pisces on December 28th into your first house. So I'm actually really excited about this for Pisces, that Jupiter will influence your sign, because I feel like there wasn't really much happening in Pisces in a while. And here with Jupiter in Pisces and then Jupiter and Neptune conjunction, I feel good things will happen for you guys. Especially in the first 4.5 months of the year, 2022. Then Jupiter will move into your second house. So here again, it will expand your finances, your income capabilities. So I think 2022 is looking really good for you guys. For you, dear Pisceans, especially the first months, because this is when the influence is strongest at the beginning of the sign. So really beautiful transit, a time of opportunities, expansion, good fortune, but also you will see life from a much more optimistic perspective. Now, the only thing about Jupiter here, while it brings the optimism opportunities, is easy gain weight because of your food choices. And this is because you might actually change your dietary habits, even unconsciously, but you might crave things that are more saucy or fatty. So something to keep in mind around this transit. But other than that, fantastic energy. And on this note, fantastic energy, and I'll discuss this further in your yearly horoscope, which I will release in December. On this note, thank you very much, and I wish you a pleasant month. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a pleasant month. In the next video, I will probably discuss the 6th house. I received a couple of votes for this house, and I'm in the process of preparing the yearly horoscopes, but they will probably be released in the second part of December. But here, a little heads up for you. So thank you again, and see you the next time.